I just do what makes me happy and what I'm in the mood for. That becomes a new one. Dress up in it. See how it's like. And it feels good.
Oh, I just wanna know how to, like, let go of and release the icky feelings and tension that I feel, knowing that somebody else doesn't like me. Or
Who do I become in a situation when somebody doesn't like me?
do I go out of my way to talk to them just to try to keep the peace so they kind of know where I'm coming from
Who do I have to become in this? Who do I have to become now? This identity doesn't work.
I just wanna know how to, like, let go of and release the icky feelings and tension that I feel, knowing that somebody else doesn't like me or thinks less than of me, or I've heard rumors of things that they've said. And, this is a continuation of our last episode about how to stop negative thoughts from consuming me. And so now we're getting into, like, kind of that feeling of how to, like, really release it where because I don't wanna continue feeling this tension or, like, sometimes I just feel like I have to resolve it. Like, I wanna have it resolved. Like, I wanna explain my point, and if I explain my point, then they're gonna hear me, and then they're gonna get me, and then we're gonna have good vibes and be in this good energy space, which is the energy field I wanna be in. But I'm starting to realize that's not always the case, and some people just you're not gonna be able to convince them. Their mind is already made up. So how do I become okay inside my own body of not getting sucked in and feeling like just horrible knowing that someone else is thinking less of something that I don't even feel like is true, but knowing that that's their story of me. I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, it is very consuming when one feels that they're having a hard time. It's just the knowing that there's somebody out there that I'm fully aware of that doesn't like me. It's like there must be so many people who simply don't like me or don't like you or don't like you or don't like anybody, but it's like when I know that somebody doesn't like me, when there's tension now in the air because they don't like me and I don't want to jump through hoops to let them like me, but at the same time I wish they would like me, right? Because if they liked me, then I can be more natural around them whenever I like step out of my house. And we're talking about the neighbor here, like you step out of your house and not to feel like, oh, is she looking out her window? I hope I don't bump into her when I'm getting in my car. She's getting in her car, whatever the scenario is. I know that feels like I had the same issue, a similar issue, not with the dog, with my neighbor. And I can just say that it was always like there's always this back of the mind, like, oh, if I go out, will I see her? Ah, if I go out, do I smile? Do I not smile? Do I just pretend I didn't see? Like, there's so much that happens. And so that's why tension feels so tense. It's less about the truth of what is really happening and more about who do I become in a situation when somebody doesn't like me. I'm the kind of person who likes to smile at people. I'm the kind of person who likes to do this. I'm the kind of person who wants to be a good person. But now I'm being asked not to be that person anymore in the presence of this specific person, because this specific person, when I was this really nice person with them, didn't like this image I had, this persona, this identity. They still didn't like it. So, ooh, this is great information. Now I'm really receiving information. This is so cool. So it's like this identity I've dressed up as isn't working with this specific person. And now the mind wants to find a solution. I don't feel safe in the identity I've dressed up in that has kept me safe my whole life. It's just kept me safe my whole life. People liked me because I smiled, I was helpful, I was responsible, I was all these good things. But now there's this one person, and not only that, you heard that there were a few talking behind your back. So now your mind is like, if the whole neighborhood doesn't like me, who do I have to become in this? Who do I have to become now? This identity doesn't work. Okay. So this is the scary part because it is still an identity, right? This I'm a good person or I'm sweet or I'm kind or I'm loving is still an identity. And it's an identity we all want to dress up in, right? Because it feels like the identity that's the closest one to our true essence, right? It's the closest one to our true essence. But with it comes a lot of exerted energy, right? So as close as it is to our true essence, which is just blissful and sweet and loving, and we all help each other, we all live in this utopic world, which is what the other realms look like. Right now, in this realm, a very huge egoic thing comes with it, because there's the human form with the ego that's like, I have to over exaggerate this personality I have that's the closest thing to my essence, and it's exerting a lot of energy. What identity do I have to be now? What role do I play in front of somebody who doesn't like me? So this becomes a challenge. And that's where the tension lies. So whether it's with your family members, whether it's with a friend that you're in a fallout with, whether it's in a neighbor, and a neighbor is pretty tough because we all don't live with our family members anymore unless you have that tension with your partner and your husband. Like you said, you were having tension with him. That's like a neighbor. That's somebody you have to deal with. And I don't know if you all relate to this because I relate to this 100%, or if you relate to this specifically, is you really don't know who to become. Okay. You're like, do I have to become somebody else? And if I do, then who's this else that I have to become? And if I become this someone else, and this is how the brain works, will I have to be this someone else for long periods of time? Okay. And will the someone else, which is not a good, not in the mind, in the mental mind, it's not a good person, is this someone else going, do I have to become it so much so that it's just going to become who I am? And then I will lose this like kind, loving, joyful me, right? Because your brain will immediately go with, you're just going to say hi, but you're going to have a boundary, right? You might smile or you might ignore them. And if they ignore them, you're going to just always ignore them. So now you're like a bitter kind of identity. Right? Is it making sense, Mel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the scary part of the tension time, right? That's why we all fear tension environments. Okay. That's our biggest fear, that somebody doesn't like us, because we've worked so hard to build an identity that was likable by our environment. That is the core of it, the truth and the core of it. If I didn't work so, it's like if you worked so hard to make your child have A's in their exams all the time. Like you struggled with them. You were up all night with them. You were doing the projects with them, like one of those helicopter parents, right? It's just like their success is your success. Like that's all that matters, right? And then they don't get the A, they get a C. And you feel crushed, right? Because you've done it's the same thing with that identity, right? So that identity is outside of us. It's a mask we put on. Now, so there's this new identity you come up with. But the cool part is actually noticing that, hey, I'm not even this smiley identity. That isn't truly who I am all the time, right? Because I'm not smiley all the time. And you'll you'll start to notice that there are many times you walk out of the house and you're not in the mood to smile. You're maybe not even in the mood to say hello to somebody. You're not. You're simply not. And not because you're angry, you're just not in the mood. You're not in a social mood. You're in your head. You're busy. You just maybe had a fight with someone in the house. Like it doesn't matter the situation. You're simply not in the mood. But when a neighbor passes, or somebody passes and they say, everything shifts. How you truly feel disappears, and you go, okay. And if they ask, how was your day? You go, good. Yeah. And how was yours? Okay, I have to go. Right. The identity, again, we dressed up in. So, how do we just be cool with who we are? It's hard because we don't even know who we are is, right? Because if we've had an identity for so long, it's been who we are, right? And we go around telling people, I know I go around, I'm like, I'm just joyous and I want happiness and I am just, I'm optimistic. This is a version of me. I'm not like bouncing off walls when I'm sitting at home alone. I'm not like, sometimes, yeah, if I put music on, but this isn't my state alone at home, right? It is who I am with others, which is cool. But to recognize that, okay, when I'm alone, who am I really? And I'm many, many things. You are many, many things. You're not one thing. So this tension that you're worried about, you're just worried about letting go of something you've worked so hard to develop and to make and to be agreed upon by many people. Okay. It's like building a business, right? And people are coming and purchasing and getting, and now it's become bigger than you, right? And now you're Costco. You are Costco, right? And you can't get away from it anymore. And then somebody comes and says, "You suck, Costco." I'm like, "Oh, but all these people love it. Who else am I meant to be?" And so the solution to this would be, well, I'm feeling all this tension. What is my drive? What am I afraid of? Who am I afraid to become in this experience right now? Right. And you're probably going to figure out that you are so afraid to become everything you fought against becoming. And that's why healing the tension is of vital importance to us mere human beings trying to survive in this world to get people to like us. Does it make sense?
Yeah. So so the key is just accepting and being okay with like it's okay. This piece of me or this the misunderstood piece is always going to be there and this person happened to connect and we're just having this misunderstanding and they're not going to fully know me and that's okay. They don't need to know me and I don't need to know them. Let it go.
Yes and no. Okay, I'm so glad you said that because now I'm seeing how this thing is being directed. So basically, Mel, it's not about letting it go at all. It's about being okay with developing a second identity. It's trying to figure out, can I be okay, like an actor and an actress, to play the part of an identity of someone who is confident, self-assured, and full of self-respect. Because that's the identity that's going to show up for the neighbor in the tension and the tension. So the identity of a confident person is, I'm cool. I did nothing wrong. And we learned this from narcissists, right? There's nothing I did wrong, right? The self-assured is, you know what? I don't want to smile to someone that was rude to me. I have the right not to smile to them. You know, I don't have to live up to the good girl, good neighbor persona. It's a completely new identity. It's going to be scary as hell, but it's like trying to figure out what is the scary in this new identity and trying to dress up in the new identity. Because you're going to be like, well, I'm not going to say good morning. I'm not in the mood to say good morning to someone who was rude and threatened me. Like, why do I need to do that? If she smiles, I'll smile. Like, I'm not going to be this, not going to be rude, but this is what I'm going to do. What is so freaky about it? What scares me to death about doing this? Right? Because it is freaky. I remember when I first tried this, my body would like, I couldn't breathe actually, because it was so out of my system. Like I didn't even know this personality could exist within me, but it turns out it does. I was just like, oh, she doesn't exist, you know? Then all of a sudden, self-respect. And then these very clean boundaries start to develop. So that new identity becomes an identity of, oh, this identity. So you start to dress up as somebody new. If somebody crosses a boundary, if somebody shows disrespect, if somebody doesn't talk well, if somebody threatens, if somebody, you have a new personality, a new identity that you can dress up in, but this one has more confidence. This one doesn't need to please everyone. This one doesn't have to smile if she's not in the mood or doesn't think it's fair. This one can completely embody a completely new identity. And the cool part is you have the opportunity with your neighbor to dress up in this new identity and taste how it feels and then tweak it around a little bit. But it's the identity of the new one is, it's not the I'm happy, go, you know, good neighbor, great friend, kind, loving. All this is one identity. But this one is a whole different one. It's I'm confident, self-assured, I have self-respect. I do what makes me happy. I just do what makes me happy and what I'm in the mood for. That becomes a new one. Dress up in it. See how it's like. And it feels good. I think that makes a lot more sense.
I like that. Yeah. And then, okay, so that's how it would work with this neighbor that we one on one had this tension with, and we had this conversation, and I felt like she was very disrespectful and rude and didn't just ask kindly for what she wanted. That could have been solved and had still had a good relationship. But it was kind of like, all right, it's very clear that she's got her mind made up and she wants to be really mad and aggressive towards me. And I'm just like, And I tried to be kind and explain, and all of a sudden she attacks that I'm gaslighting her, and I'm like, it caught me off guard. I was like, I'm not trying to do that. What? Anyways, it was just the whole thing was just crazy and like threw me in a loop. But anyways, but then the second layer is then knowing, okay, I don't know everyone that she talked to, but she gave a couple insights of that. I'm like, okay, that's I think at least two different neighbors. So I'm like, is the whole neighborhood now getting together? Like who is she talking to? So then I'm like, then there's weirdness of like, I don't know who has this bad tension with me. So I'm like, do I dress up in those suits of like, okay, or just be like, whatever, screw it. I don't Now I can't trust anybody in this neighborhood because I don't know and whatever. I don't care. I don't need to be friends with neighbors. So how do I do that in a way that's not disrespectful to me and me having bitterness in my body? I don't want to have bitterness, but also I'm like, whatever. Like if no one's going to come talk to me directly and there's just going to be the behind the scenes stuff, like screw it. I don't need to be friends with any of you. So I'm kind of working through that layer of what happened that I don't know about because I haven't talked to them. Do I go out of my way to talk to them just to try to keep the peace so they kind of know where I'm coming from neighbors that I felt like we've had a good interaction with? They've been kind because I've talked with them before, but I don't know if there's new information that's from this lady talking to him that's very bitter and then switched that now they have maybe a bad impression. I don't really know. Or do I just, no, whatever, you don't need to talk to him? Or do I try to do what I can and see how they respond?
Okay, so it's very interesting because what I heard is you try to live up to being a certain person, but there's something more important for you to live up to, which is just come talk to me about it. Okay. So let's say she did mention some names and you didn't know about this. And the solution is you dress up in the new persona. You're not going there. So it's interesting because you're like, do I still go and be nice and talk to them? And that's the old identity. That's the identity of like, can you still like me? Look how good I am. I'm trying to prove someone wrong. The new identity is more of like, wait a minute, like I know who I am. I don't need them to identify. I know who I am. The new identity is I'm confident, self-assured, and I follow through with my word. I can't trust what she said, but I need to hear it. Like in Arabic, it's from the donkey's mouth, right? There's like a statement like that in Arabic, but I need to hear it from the person's mouth so I can have clarity. So if they agree or disagree, but I'm going in confidence and not in a could you like me? Because I'm not doing this to be the good neighbor. I'm doing this because I have self-respect. I respect my neighbors. I have this. And so it is with the new identity. There are boundaries. You're not trying to make them love you or hate you. You're simply receiving information so that you know who you need to become. Is that making sense? So it's not the having to go, do I be extra nice with them? First of all, you don't have to be extra nice with anybody at all. Like none of us have to be extra nice. And it took me years to figure out how to stop being extra nice. I didn't even know it was me being extra nice. I just thought it's who I am, right? To only discover I was exhausted. I didn't know why. So it's that being extra nice. So yeah, try out the new identity. The new identity isn't bitchy. The new identity isn't like doesn't smile or doesn't say good morning or isn't really sweet. The new identity is sweet with boundaries, kind with boundaries, but she's very confident about her kindness. She's good. She's a good person, but with confidence and like self-assurance. Like, I don't need to go an extra mile for anyone right now, right? So it's not the bad version of me and the good version of me. It's the over exaggerated version of me and the more balanced version of me. And it's like learning how to be more balanced. So this identity will just help ooh, it'll just help bring the identity that you've dressed up in and I've dressed up in and everyone's dressed up in forever and balance it out into an identity that doesn't hurt and deplete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so just more grounded and rooted and secure.
Yes.
So is it worth talking to these other neighbors that I'm like, I really like these couple other neighbors that she used examples from them. She didn't say any names or anything, but I'm like, okay, these are the only people, the example she used was a one-on-one thing that I had with this other person. So the other person, they've obviously been talking. So I don't know if it's worth going to the other person, just saying like, hey, just take accountability for whatever part. I'm sorry for these times. Just know that we are doing these things. We're going to make sure our dog's on a leash and whatever, so these things don't happen again. And just feel free to come to me if the something happens or the dogs get out. Feel free to message me because we don't want them getting out. But we're being very, So I don't know if it's worth doing that or if I'm just like, whatever, don't bother.
Well, it's up to how you're feeling inside. Everything's worth it. Letting go of it is worth it, and doing it is worth it. It's what would make you the most comfortable.
Mm.
What would ease your being right now? What would give you the best state of being? If it is going to them, and it's not about taking accountability, you've taken it before with them. It's more about like being like, look, I heard this from the neighbor. I'm unsure if you're really feeling this way or this is old news. Please let me know. You're not going to be like, well, it's not the idea of I'm going to lock you're not trying to please anyone. You're going to get information. You're not there to offer information. You're there to receive because you want to relax. You want to know. You don't want to be like, oh, all the neighbors don't like me. She said this. Are they all talking behind my back? You want the truth. Basically, you're like, let's say right now you're a truth seeker. Right? So if that's the choice, if that's the thing you choose to do, then choose it from a space of I'm seeking the truth. So I know how to work with it. That's all you're doing. Right. Or if you don't want to do that and you're like, I don't even care anymore, it doesn't even matter, then you gotta learn how to let it go.
Hmm.
Those are the kind of options. Yeah.
Okay. I love that.
Okay.
And I'd love to hear anyone else that's listening to this right now. This was just an personal example that I've gone through. I would love to hear in the comments below if anyone else has gone through something similar where you're kind of like holding on to that info and you have a hard time shifting those energies of or worrying about what other people think about you, and it kind of consumes you. And if it is hard for you, I'd love to know if it's hard for you to let go of some of these things or to process through it, or if you're able to like accept it. And anyways, it'd just be interesting hearing your comments or if you've had examples of things that have happened as well.
Yeah, and it would be really helpful if you do try this new identity to share with us like your new identity. What would that be? And just make sure when you write that list down and write that list in our comments so that we can all like be part of it and respond back to you if you need any help. But what would that list look like? And you're going to notice that that list is very much or very close to the opposite of who you are today, right? And so write that scary list and just share it and have our support for that with you. Yeah. I think we're complete.
Okay. Well, please give us a thumbs up if you got some value in this episode. Comment below with, like we said, just things that you can relate to or that you're going through right now. Yeah, subscribe so you can get the first for any new episodes that we have. We're going to have them like kind of build on each other as well, a lot of them. And make sure to grab our freebie that we have in the description. So it's 11 essential questions for self-discovery. So make sure you get that freebie for you and sit with that. And then make sure to click on this next episode. You're not going to want to miss it. So click right there. And we'll see you on the next episode.